Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. So today we're going to have a very interesting conversation with, I'm meeting her for the first time, but she feels like a dear friend, Stephanie Longo, who is known as the expert on the Italian-American history on northeastern Pennsylvania, and has authored several books on the subject, including Italians of northeastern Pennsylvania, Italians of Lackawanna County, and more, and published by Arcadia Publishing. It will be very interesting to talk to Stephanie to also find a direct connection between her hometown and the city of Gubbio. Ma prima, pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. Un caffè, per favore. My first cup of coffee sets the tone for my entire day, and I get my coffee at La Prima Espresso. La Prima has been brewing Pittsburgh's best coffee for nearly 35 years. Try any of their in-house roasted variety of beans from all over the world at home, or come and enjoy an espresso or a cappuccino at any of their locations, where their friendly baristas and familiar faces will make you feel at home, because a trip to La Prima is like a trip to Italy, only closer to home. Well, benvenuta Stephanie, benvenuta.
Grazie, grazie. Ciao a tutti.
It's such a pleasure to have you, because I think the first time that I kind of started to follow you, and is also because of somehow a connection. If you can tell a little bit to our audience where your family from, but I think we have a Benevento connection. Is that correct?
We do, in a way. So my family is actually from Guardia Lombardi in Provincia di Avellino, and you can actually see that behind me in my background. But I've been to Benevento so many times, it feels like an extra town for me. And I do have cousins from there.
Okay.
They left the Avellino, Irpinia area and settled in Benevento. So I'm used to it. I love it. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. So yes, there is a Benevento connection. It's not as strong as I would like it to be, but
yeah,
I mean,
but
I'm learning.
Okay.
They're still there.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit how the journey of your family to the United started, and whether they came and settled where you're at right now, or they started, settled somewhere else first and eventually moved to, you're in Scranton?
Yes. In Dunmore, so a suburb of Scranton, a very heavily Italian suburb of the city of Scranton. In fact, in the 2014 American Community Survey, Dunmore was ranked number 12 of most Italian towns in the United States.
Really?
So we're very, very proud of that here in Dunmore. And we have one of the largest concentrations besides Mount Vernon, New York, and that area, and St. Catharines, Ontario, of people from Guardia Lombardi. So it's even better for all of us. But my grandfather is actually the person who came over. He came over at age 11 in 1927 with my great-grandmother. My great-grandfather was already established here, and my great-grandfather had tried several times in the United States. He went to Brooklyn, he went to Rochester, New York, he went all around until he was like, hey, wait a minute, I think Scranton is probably the best place for me to settle my family. There's a lot of people from Guardia here. So he brought the rest of the family over. He brought my grandfather, my Aunt Jenny, and my great-grandmother to meet him and their other son, Gaetano. Their son, Angelo, stayed behind. It's actually a funny story. He had met now Aunt Maria Michaela in Guardia, and he didn't want to leave her. So he took rocks and broke all the windows in the municipio So he had to stay behind. So he didn't come over until the 1960s. So.
Well, that was a creative way of expressing his opinion.
Yeah. So that's how he got to stay over there. And then my grandmother's family actually came from Lamezia Terme in Provincia di Catanzaro, Calabria. And the same thing, my great-grandfather on that side was a shoemaker, and he came to North Scranton, which has a heavy population of people from the Lamezia Terme area. Started his business there, and then eventually my grandparents met at a party, and the rest is history, as they say.
So I always like to find out about growing up, if being Italian was indeed a characteristic of again your childhood, or maybe because of the adaptation, it was more the American ways, and then later in life you kind of discovered that you had there was you were drawn to Italy. So what was it like for you?
So it's a little bit of both. So my parents divorced when I was 3. My father was Lithuanian, and my mother and I, she raised me as a single parent. So I learned all of the Italian traditions from her, because it was her parents that are the off the boat parents from Italy. My grandmother was born in the United States, but my grandfather obviously came over. So there was a strong tie to Italy there. She grew up hearing Italian in the house. She doesn't speak it herself because they didn't teach their children Italian. But the heritage was always something that was around me, even as a child, even though it wasn't as pronounced as maybe it could have been at the time. We always did, like at Christmas time, the Guardia's tradition is spaghetti aglio olio every Christmas. We don't do the 7 fish in Guardia because we're so far away from the water and we're way up in the mountains. So we're one of the few that do not do that. So there were little traditions that were sprinkled here and there. And how I ended up learning Italian was actually when I went to the University of Scranton. So I went as a French major, and to be able to have a language major there, you had to take a second language. So I'm looking at the list and I'm just like, well, everybody takes Spanish, and I'm, and then I'm like, hey, wait a second, Italian's here. Okay, done. That was it. That was it. A lifelong passion really began. And, I've gotten to learn a lot more about my family by learning Italian. It's been really wonderful. I've gotten to reconnect with family over in Guardia as well as in Lamezia, which is fantastic. One of the cousins I reconnected with, she's become my best friend / sister / whatever you want to say. She's just that tight of a relationship. She'll be coming here in October for my wedding when she is my matron of honor. So,
and yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Grazie. Yeah. And I'm marrying an Irishman who's very dedicated to his Irish heritage, but he's been wonderful about going to Italian events and things with me. So we have a great.
You guys look beautiful together.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yes, so you have your BA in Italian, French, and your MA history, and then journalism.
Yes.
And then so do you feel that once you started to become fluent in the language, you could add a different depth to your understanding your Italianness?
100%. In fact, right now I'm in the final stages of my doctorate in strategic communication. And a lot of what I'm doing my dissertation on, my sources are in Italian, because I'm talking about heritage travel and place branding and all that. And because I'm getting to do some research in Italian, I've noticed I have a much different perspective on things than I would have if I was doing this research in English. And it's just great because I see things as I have dual citizenship. So I see things as almost a dual national, because there's things that I'm thinking to myself, like, at least in terms of heritage tourism and place branding. Well, I think of places like Irpinia, and I think of places like Benevento or Guardia that are trying to attract their people that left and are coming back for a visit. How do we brand that? How do we talk about that? And it's become a very interesting conversation. And I don't think I would have been able to propose this specific dissertation topic had it not have been for learning Italian and having that experience in my own life and going back there and discovering my family.
That is great, because obviously for me it's my native tongue, but be able to do some research in both languages is almost being able to see history from both
Yeah.
sides, of the coin. You are a proliferous writer, and thanks to you, I was actually got I kind of traveled a little bit in your neck of the woods to find out about traditions, characteristics of the community, and I wanted to start with your publication, Italians of Lackawanna County. To see, first of all, you were also, the book also got the Literary Titan Book Award, so congratulations for that. But for people that are not familiar with this region, can you give us a description, what to expect, and some of the initiatives that might still be going on in the territory?
Sure. So I think that northeastern Pennsylvania is definitely one of the last great ethnic melting pots of the United States. And I say that with a lot of love and a lot of pride, because we have a strong Polish American community, a strong Lithuanian American community, Russian American, Ukrainian American, you name it. There's a community for it. And we have the third largest St. Patrick's Day parade in the United States. That's how strong our Irish community is. So we have a lot of ethnicities coexisting. We still get newer ethnicities coming in, newer races. We have a big population coming in that's Hispanic, as well as people coming in from Africa. It's beautiful. And everybody gets along. Everybody is respectful to everybody else. And it's just a really beautiful place for heritage and culture to thrive. I feel like northeastern Pennsylvania kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap thanks to The Office, because everybody sees Scranton, the home of The Office, and you joke around about that when you meet people. I mean, it's just one of those things, but there's so much more to us than just being the home of The Office. And I think our Italian community really celebrates that. Ray Guarini from Italian Enclaves, as well as Alexis Cara-Tracy from the Italian Mass Project, they came out here about 2 weeks ago, and they came to Ubaldo, and we just did an entire trip throughout Lackawanna County. We hit every single Italian enclave in Lackawanna County, and they were amazed. They didn't realize that there was so much in all these little towns. And if you look at the map of Lackawanna County, it's because they had to walk to the coal mines. Yes. And all of these little Italian enclaves are situated right over the mines. Dunmore is a great example. Like, it's right on a heavy vein of coal that they mined. And again, all these ethnicities coexisted and lived together, and they're still celebrating their heritage. Each ethnicity is. It's not just the Italians. And I feel like that teaches you to be proud of your ethnic culture. So I'm super proud, obviously, to be Italian, but it also teaches you to be proud to be from northeastern Pennsylvania, because you're absorbing other little bits of culture that wouldn't necessarily be yours by birth, but they become yours because of where you're from.
Yes, and your stories, you have pictures, you document family histories, first generation, the stories of first generation immigrants, and so forth. So, but then there are also some other little curiosities. Like, I am not really familiar with the territory, and if I hadn't been that we had an event at Mondo Italiano, I really will talk about Sant'Ubaldo. But yes. Let me see, Old Forge, the borough of Old Forge,
yes,
as the pizza capital of the world.
Yes.
So there is a little bit of a pizza tour that, like, 160 shops, I think, when you wrote the book. So tell me about the strong pizza tradition in Old Forge.
Of course. So again, it's all going back to the coal mines. So the miners needed something that they could take with them to the mines that would still taste good after sitting around all day. And the wives came up with this type of pizza on, it's like a thicker bread. It's not Sicilian style pizza, and it's definitely not Neapolitan style pizza. I would say it's like somewhere in the middle, because it's not as thick as Sicilian style pizza. It's a little thinner, but not as thin as Neapolitan. And they put American cheese over it because that was the cheese that they were able to get, because they were in the United States. And then the tomatoes are grown over the border in Luzerne County in Pittston, because they're known for their tomatoes, because of the coal, the anthracite coal does something to the soil to make the tomatoes taste really good. So that was what they would bring to the mines to have, and pizza shops started springing up over Old Forge, and that's how it really got the name, the pizza capital of the world. But there's other styles of pizza out here too. I'm actually a huge fan of what they call pan-fried Sicilian. So that's out in Luzerne County. A few places, it's starting to make its way into Lackawanna County too, but Luzerne County really has the stronghold on it. And they do, it's like a Detroit pizza, but not. And they turn the oven up so much that the bottom crust fries in the oil. And it's outstanding. And this is the only place in the United States where you can get that. It's really a wonderful thing to see.
Absolutely. I would want to give it a try. Also, you feature some people. Will talk about some of the names that people should be familiar with. One that you say, although she's not a native of Lackawanna County, the best-selling Italian American author Adriana Trigiani spent quite a bit of time in the territory.
Sure.
Have you had the pleasure to meet or correspond with her? I would
absolutely. She's an amazing human being. She's a dear friend, a mentor in many different ways. When I was working as a journalist, she was one of the first people that I actually interviewed. So I have nothing but the utmost respect, love, and admiration for her. And her family's originally from Roseto, Pennsylvania. So I know that she's associated with West Virginia because that's where she grew up, but a lot of family came to Roseto in Northampton County, and that's not too far from here. So it's very logical that she would spend some time in Scranton as well. And, we consider her one of our own. She's northeastern Pennsylvanian, just like the rest of us. More to the Lehigh Valley, which is where she's from with Roseto. That's more the Slate Belt Lehigh Valley area, but still she's one of us, and it's a wonderful thing. Her books are amazing, and they do such a beautiful job. She captures the spirit of this area so well in her books when she talks about Roseto or that general area, which she's talked about Bethlehem in her books. Like, she captures it perfectly.
Wonderful. And I see also talking about writers now for this one, we go back to a few centuries back, Dante, and but you guys have a beautiful statue of Dante, and Agostino Russo seems to be a common denominator for some of these beautiful statues, not only Dante, but also some additional marble work in the area.
Yes, his great masterpiece. And I tell everybody, if you come to Scranton and only see one Italian site, you need to go see St. Lucy's. So it's St. Lucy's Church in Scranton's west side. It's the Mother Italian Catholic Church of the Diocese of Scranton. And Agostino Russo did the sculpting on that. And it's pretty cool because if you see pictures of his studio back in Italy, so he was from Solofra in Provincia di Avellino. So he's one of us. And it's beautiful because on the door he has Lo Scultores Scrantonese. And he saw himself as adopted to Scranton, even though he was from Italy. And I just think that's a beautiful testament of all the things that he's done. The Dante statue is gorgeous. That was given by the Italian citizens to the city of Scranton. It's now at the University of Scranton's campus. But really, St. Lucy's, if I had to pick his capolavoro, it would be St. Lucy's Church. Okay.
So you start your second chapter talking about God provides. A chi bene crede, Dio provvede. So have faith in and God will provide. And that introduces a beautiful tradition that actually was just May 27th in Jessup. And it is something that is done only in two parts of the world. If you can tell us a little bit about the holiday, then I'm going to play something about it. But I'll let you tell us more about what is happening in the town of Jessup. In the meanwhile, I'm going to show also Gubbio so that people can really see how important the tradition is in both locations.
Okay, so it's La Corsa dei Ceri, and that has been celebrated in Gubbio for centuries at this point. And it's just you need to go and see this in either Gubbio or Jessup or both, because my friends in Jessup have told me they will never run La Corsa dei Ceri before Gubbio runs theirs. So you can, and people have done this. I know people from Jessup and people from Gubbio that have come over. They go and do the one in Gubbio 1 week, and then they come for Jessup the very next week. It's a lot of travel, but they do it. And it's just breathtaking. To me, it's the best example of northeastern Pennsylvania's Italian heritage, because the way that the people in Jessup put this on, it is done with so much love, so much care, so much concern. The tradition itself was born out of when Ubaldo was the bishop of Gubbio.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having negotiations with Frederick Barbarossa at the time. And to prove to the people of Gubbio that he was safe, they took Ubaldo out and they put him on a platform, paraded him around the town. And of course, after he died, he performed miracles and he ended up becoming a saint in the Catholic Church. So you see the 3 different colors. So the yellow represents Ubaldo's team, black represents St. Anthony, and blue represents St. George. And they run with the saints. It's the most amazing thing to be able to see. It's just, you have to see this. And there it is. That's some of it right there with everybody. And you can see that looks like Ubaldo coming. Yes, because the yellow is carrying him. And it's just amazing. They do such an amazing job. And there they are running with it through the streets. And
How
everybody's
are those, let's call them pillars. I wouldn't
the
have a
Ceri.
better. Mm-hmm. Oh, just the Ceri.
Yep.
So do you, how heavy are they? Because I've seen some pictures and I have an idea that it should be pretty strenuous effort to.
Yeah. So that actually is my friend Michael Capolini speaking. He is part of the family of Sant'Antonio. And if you look carefully and that one is actually the statue of St. Ubaldo that the town of Gubbio gave to Jessup. So that's not one that they actually run with. That's one that they just venerate. But the Ceri, the big ones that you see, it takes 10 people to run with that. And Michael has been doing that for years in his family. And like right there, they're tossing the brocche. That's something for good luck when they're getting the Ceri ready. But the people on top are called the Capo 10 because they're the head of 10. So they're the capo for the year. And it's a big honor for everyone in Jessup. If somebody is named the capo of their family, that's a huge honor. And it's just amazing to see. I highly recommend that people go to Jessup to see La Corsa dei Ceri at least once. It's breathtaking.
And I think at that point, the reporter was talking about the fact that these are these amphoras coming from Gubbio. Do you know if? And then you just throw them, and so if you get a piece of it, I guess it's good luck. But if you get the handle, even better.
So from what I understand, it's just ceremonially tossed for good luck. And I've seen in people's houses that they've gotten all the pieces of it and then they keep it on their table because it actually has the name of the Capo 10 at the bottom of it. So it's something of theirs that they can have as a souvenir. So they usually end up with the pieces of it from what I understand. Yeah.
That is so unique. I just being able to witness in front of you, you know, this manifestation that repeats over centuries, and you know that there is the Twin City doing it pretty much, and it's just amazing. So this is a tradition. Also, some other figures that might be related to your region that people should really know about. And is there anyone specific that you would like to share the story of?
Absolutely. I think that people should know the story of Gino Merli. So he is our Medal of Honor recipient from Lackawanna County. He's one of several. We do have other recipients, but he's the only Italian American. And Gino Merli faked his death in Belgium to save his encampment, and he killed many Germans. The number is actually escaping my mind right now, but he did that, and it's such a heroic feat of bravery, and he received the Medal of Honor for his actions in World War II for that. And the Gino Merli Veteran Center is named for him. There's Gino Merli Drive in Peckville. You could go to the Valley Community Library in his hometown of Peckville and actually see an exhibit about him. They have a museum that has the actual Medal of Honor there so people could see it. But he was just a good guy that went and he did his duty for his country. He never felt that he did anything special. I never had the fortune of meeting him. I did know his wife, Mary, and she was a lovely woman. And that was how she described Gino to me. She said he just felt that he was doing his duty for his country and he loved this country. And I think that's an amazing story to hear of Italian Americans, because I think the World War II time was the time when they really got treated as American. World War II was like the great equalizer, I've heard people say, because people that were not Italian were fighting alongside of Italians. They were learning a little bit more about them, and the cultures started to mix. And Gino's a great example of that. He always stayed proud of his Italian roots. His parents were direct off the boat from Italy, and he was very proud to be American, and he put his life on the line for the country. There's a monument to him also on Lackawanna County's Courthouse Square. So I always try to, when I'm doing tours, to take people to at least see that, so they get Gino's story if they can't make it up to Peckville.
One other thing that I would like to talk about is obviously you're the producer of the Italian American podcast. We'll have John and Pat on the show soon. But this is another way of indeed continuing to share the importance of the Italian American heritage. And I was wondering, what is your, first of all, you guys do an amazing job. The Italian American podcast has been going on almost, we're getting 9 years. I think
I think you're right.
So it's how there was also the conference of the future leaders to kind of attract also new talent, new leaders, and so forth. And in your observations, how are the new Italian Americans? What are some of the trends? What are some of the themes that resonate better with the new generation?
I think just from my background in communication, what I've noticed is that they're very communication savvy in terms of social media, in terms of digital media. They're very connected. And what I mean by that is they know all the cool influencers to follow. They know the cool websites to check out. They know things that we don't know. I'm more bookish. I will be the first person to pick up a book and read it. I guess maybe that's why I became a writer. Like I like that physical hard copy of a book. And even though I do strategic communication, I'm online when I have to be online, but when I'm not online, I like to be with books. And these future leaders just impressed me so much with their knowledge of how to find things out on social media and what to learn and what to discover. And they're just very in tune with what's going on. They know how to leverage social media to really connect with other Italian Americans.
Yes.
And that I appreciate so much, because when I started out doing this, my goodness, Italians of northeastern Pennsylvania is about 20 years old. So, I mean, this is 20 years that I'm doing this. When I started out, I was, I was 22 years old, and Facebook didn't exist. And it was a much different world. And I wish that I had this ability to make these connections. And when I see them doing it, that's how Alexis started her Italian Mass project. She's able to connect with people on social media. Ray with Italian Enclaves, the same thing. He's connected with, that's how he and I met. It was connecting on social media. Hey, I know that you're from this area and I'm interested in learning more about it. That creates the network. And the younger generation knows how to leverage that to their benefit. And I'm profoundly impressed by them.
Were there certain themes that they were resonating more with them, or new themes that they actually brought up that they're relevant to their being Italian in today's world instead of being Italian, 60 years ago?
Yeah, it goes back to that social media. And it's interesting because that's what I study. So I study how Italian Americans are portrayed on social media. And I study how generations, actually one of my papers that I've written is about how generations use social media to avow their ethnicity. And they're already doing everything that I'm suggesting in these papers. It's great because I think, oh, great, I'm smart. Like, look at that. I predicted that correctly. This is wonderful. But they have their finger on this, and they're able to take it in such a different direction that we're not able to, partly because the generations, I mean, we're still the generations. I remember rotary phones. Like it's just that generational thing. They understand how to really leverage social media. I mean, that for me, that was the thing that blew me away the most with it, because I study again how people are avowing their ethnicity on social media and what they're posting, what they're doing, and they're miles ahead of even that. It's really fantastic to see.
Yes, and also, coming together from, was it open to anywhere in the States?
Yes.
With it. Okay, so you had people, and I think also Umberto was there with his daughter, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Umberto. So I have to say, Umberto is one of my all-time favorite people on the planet. Valeria was just amazing too. They're just fantastic people. But Umberto had me on the edge of my seat with his presentation because it was about the metaverse. And that's one thing that I'm very excited about in my studies. So he's talking about the metaverse and Italian American studies and all these things. And I'm there. I'm like, give me more. Give me all that you possibly can on this. I just want to know. And really, he did an outstanding job with that and showing how the metaverse, because again, new technology, I feel like my generation, like early 40s, we need to at least understand these things and to be able to use it so we can, I always say, like, you need to know enough to be dangerous with it. And then the younger generations, they're natives to these things, where like my generation, your generation, because we're a little older, we're the digital immigrants, they're the digital natives. So
the ones that were born with two sets of thumbs.
Exactly. It's so interesting to be able to see that, and getting to see how the metaverse can be used to promote our heritage and really go forward with it. Again, that's something that I plan on including in my dissertation, but it's so fascinating to me, and Umberto did such an amazing job with that. He knows I love him. He's family to me, and he always will be, but that just completely blew me away. That was amazing. Yeah.
We're almost close to the end of our lovely chat, but is it true, and I believe it is, that you were the person instrumental to have Pennsylvania declare October as Italian American Heritage Month?
Yes. I'm very modest. I'm one of those people that's like, yeah, well, maybe I have to learn how to say, yes, I did that. But it was thanks to Kyle Mullins as well, our state representative in this area. We worked together on that initiative, and Pennsylvania did declare October as Italian Heritage Month. It was wonderful. Probably one of my proudest moments in my Italian American career was that, if not the proudest moment, because the whole state declared it thanks to that work. And I'm really proud that it came out of northeastern Pennsylvania. It was, we're still that ethnic holdout. I know I've got to go to Pittsburgh. I need to visit you out there, because I have actually never been to Pittsburgh, because Pennsylvania is so big.
We'll do a little exchange.
I would love that.
I'll be your tour guide here, and then we'll spend some time together
out here.
Scranton.
Yes, but it was just so nice to see that, because Pennsylvania has such a strong Italian population from border to border, and we never did Italian American Heritage Month. And that was a shock when I found that out. And I was like, this can't be. So we're going to get that remedied. And we did. And I was so proud to be a part of that. But that was really thanks to State Representative Kyle Mullins. He really did a great job with that. And I can't thank him enough for pushing that through on the floor.
Well, we cannot thank you enough for everything that you have been doing with your writing, with your documenting, with your historian, with your work as an historian. And I feel very honored that you have had the ability to spend some time today to talk about our Italian heritage. And then before we conclude, again, October will be memorable for you then twice, your wedding and also your accomplishment. So maybe they'll add something else to the proclamation. And because it's your wedding.
Well, it's actually quite hilarious because we didn't plan on this when we were scheduling our wedding, but it's over Columbus Day weekend. And we didn't do that on purpose. We actually picked October 7th because it's the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, and we
Uh-huh.
wanted a Marian feast as our wedding
Mhm.
date, or
Okay.
a saint that would have been one that we were
Mhm.
dedicated to, just depending on how the dates fell. And we were like, oh, this is perfect. There's a Saturday that's Our Lady of the Rosary. Well, obviously, we want the Virgin Mary protecting our marriage. And then people started saying to me, do you realize you're getting married on Columbus Day weekend?
Well, now you just brought up one little question about, are there any Italian wedding traditions that in your region? Like in Pittsburgh, I came to learn and appreciate the wedding cookie table.
Yes.
So I was wondering if it stretches all the way up to Scranton, or you might have something else that has been continued over the years by the immigrants of
Yes.
yeah.
So there's two things. So we are doing the cookie table. I found on Etsy a beautiful cookie tray that actually tells the story of the cookie trays. And you could have it switched from Pittsburgh, Youngstown, or northeastern Pennsylvania. So they knew what they were doing. I think the artisan that did this was out of Youngstown, but it's absolutely beautiful. And that's going to be in the middle. And then the bridges, I saw that actually when I was just doing some research, that Pittsburgh has these beautiful bridges. So I'm having a friend of mine do one on either side of the cookie table that one side of it's going to represent Sean's Irish heritage, and one side is going to represent my Italian heritage, and it'll meet in the middle with the story of the cookie tray. So that's definitely going to be there. And then obviously all the different types of cookies. That's more my mother's department. We've been talking about what ones we want to have on. There's certain specific family recipes that are important to us. She won the blue ribbon for Lackawanna County for her pepper cookies, so that has to be on there. My Aunt Jenny, she's no longer with us. Her pizzelle recipe, that's something I insist upon having on there because I miss her terribly. I'm actually getting to wear part of her wedding dress. My cousins found it and they gave it to me. They said, use some of the fabric in your gown. So that's going to be
that
there.
Would be
so
very special.
extremely special. But my mother said to me, you have to have ziti in some way that is the Calabrese wedding pasta, and you need to have this. So on our menu, we will have ziti at this wedding. So it's supposed to be good luck for the bride and groom. And then we're also doing the bomboniere. Mariana Gatto from the Italian American Museum in Los Angeles. She's actually doing the bomboniere for us. She was so kind enough to say that she's like, I want to help out and here's what I'll do. So the Jordan almonds are going to make a little flour. And then in the middle of it, we're putting bells, because the bells are an Irish tradition to ring after you get married to ward away evil spirits. So I wanted to unite the Italian and the Irish for the wedding.
Okay, so until that, I will be continuing to follow you in your adventures. And yes, the traditional bomboniere is probably something that if you grew up in Italy or in Italian household, you might be very familiar with. And because any house that you still go to that has a beautiful china cabinet probably has bomboniere for all the occasions, baptisms and communions and weddings. And it's always, even though those Jordan almonds are probably like 20 years old now, everyone always collects them, so unless you're a little kid, you manage to sneak in your hand and steal and eat the confetti when they're still good to be eaten. But in my parents' house, it's the same thing. And my grandparents' house was the same. And then the idea, at least that's the tradition that we had of, you had the bomboniere for all the guests, but then you had the house visits sometimes with the, certain relatives that maybe were closer to the family or the elderly and so forth, to pay respect after the wedding as the newlyweds. So. Well, Stephanie, unfortunately, our time together is up. Il Big Ben ha detto stop. It's time for us to say arrivederci and alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning in into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Remember, if you or any of your family friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, please visit our website at www.istitutomonditaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour tab. You can also subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube or where you catch your favorite podcasts. I would like to thank my guest, Stephanie Longo, our sponsor, Istituto Mondo Italiano, La Prima Espresso. Until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, grazie.